If you could juggle anything.
Tap dance.
Yeah, she refuses. All right, it says we're going
Yeah.
live. I don't hit, oh, I have to say got it here. Got it. All right. Hallelujah. All right, so hello, everyone. The angels are with us, it's true. So I am KatmanU, psychic empath, psychic wrangler, and celestial medium. Welcome to Third Eye Salon, where we drop the veils of illusion in order to take a deep, fresh look at reality. And today we are looking beyond the veils of the Fae and the Celtics and how real magic works with goddess energy, with our goddess friend from across the pond, Maria Wheatley. But before we say hello to Maria, I am going to put us into Brady Bunch view. And we're going to say hello to my bestie, Linda Coulter-Burge, psychic and conscious business coach. How are you, my love?
I'm fabulous. I'm feeling really refreshed this morning and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So ready to go and looking forward to learning so much more from Maria. So yay! I will be your live stream chat host. And as always, my policy is play nice or get out, because we just don't have room for anything less than that beautiful love for each other. And I mean it. So also, as you watch this, remember to like the podcast, because it does make a difference. Subscribing to our podcast makes a huge difference in the algorithms, and share them with people that you know that will enjoy them. And you can also check us out on just about any other podcast channel. The links are all below. And if you're interested in working with us, those links are below as well. Thank you also for the donations and for the likes and for the coffee. We appreciate every single one of those things from you. And again, all those links below, you're seeing a pattern, right? And if you haven't, please join our Facebook group, Third Eye Salon. We'll continue the conversations there, and it's a great place to explore and support each other in this journey. And with that, welcome back, Maria. I'm so excited to spend more time with you.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here with both of you again. Lovely, knowledgeable people in your own right. So I know I'm in good company.
Yeah, I'm just so excited to bring you back in. I was tuning into Maria's energy and her work, and it's so much of this resurrection of the goddess energy and how it's showing up. And we're just holding a big space for the return of the goddess, is what it feels like to me. And it's showing up in all these different ways. I can see I'm going to be rebranding the show after this talk, and I'm going to be like changing things. But it's really the sacred energy. And like Linda is just buoyant with goddess energy. And, before I would get in trouble for calling her goddess. And so hopefully maybe now she'll let me start just goddessing her up a little bit more often. Because you see it, you say it, right? You see it, you say it.
All.
So
I will accept it because we all are. We all are.
Okay, go ahead, downplay it. But goddess. So our friend Jason is not here today. He did have a funeral to attend. So we are with him energetically and the family, and just supporting them in clearing and cleansing their energy and any familial stuff that's going on. Let's just be blessed in love so everyone can have the best healing experiences, which is really what funerals could be about if we so chose it. All right then, so I'm going to pop into my speaker view, and I'm going to give you a little background on Maria. The full bio is down below, but I want you to know at least know these things if you're new coming in. Maria is a second-generation dowser who was taught by European master dowsers, her late father and Chinese geomants. A geomants is somebody who's a geomancer. They work with the earth energy. I didn't know that till our first show with Maria. Maria is a leading authority on earth energies, ley lines, and ancient megalithic sites. Maria is the UK's foremost dowser of the geodetic system of earth energies and runs tours to sacred sites worldwide. Bucket list? Can you say bucket list? Maria is also a druid who follows the Celtic path, and she has also written diploma courses and runs esotericcollege.com. check that out for real, which offers certified courses on holistic subjects, including past life regression, druid astrology, tarot, dowsing. She does it all. 30 years of dedication to the goddess. Maria teaches advanced dowsing techniques, which are not taught anywhere else in the world. So please give us a thumbs up if you're excited to at all about connecting with Miss Maria today, and the all of the energy, wisdom, and integration of goddess wisdom that she brings into everything she does. So, you know, I have my little notes here, but I kind of want to toss the mic to Linda and just say, Linda, would you like to start off with any question or any part of this that's been curious to you?
Well, right before the show, Maria was talking about the moon phases and its effect on us and how we can really take advantage of that energy in our lives. I would love just a snippet of that from you, because it was such great advice.
I mean, it is wonderful. Thank you for that, Linda. That was very nicely said. Yes, working with the moon is wonderful, and it has many phases, as we know, and we're very familiar with the new moon and the full moon, for example. But one phase of the moon that is really divine to work with, and it's called rather dark moon. So what's dark moon? It's the last waning crescent. Okay, and it's wonderful to watch. So I actually would like to galvanize the listeners here to go out and have a look at dark moon. All you have to do is Google the last waning phase of the moon, and it's a very slim kind of moon that is the opposite of a crescent moon. That's what it looks like, the opposite of a crescent moon, but it rises in it sets in the east, where it's rising just ahead of the sun. So to put that into the correct context, it rises up in the exact area where the sun is about to rise, and it's always honey colored. It's amazing. It's a golden moon, and you've only got a limited window to work with it before the sun replaces where it is and bleaches its light out. So you have then the crone, the wise aspect of dark moon with the uniting with the masculine. So that's union, but then it gets a magical phase. The moon is no longer in the sky. It's now no moon phase after that last waning phase. So it's a time where we can seed what it is we want to birth. It's a time where we can let go of something that's been holding us back. And then we wait for 3 days. And then, rising in the western part of the sky, comes the crescent moon up. And that's when everything unites to what you wanted to seed and bring in magically, is the time of the crescent moon as it's waxing to fullness. So it's a wonderful time, and it's little known, the real magic of dark moon. And it was always known by our ancient ancestors. They integrated dark moon into Stonehenge and other sites, going way, way back, 20,000 years ago in the Mesolithic, the Middle Stone Age. They had literally sticks notched with dark moon being the most important, not the full moon. That's quite a modern add-on. And we must think, really, even if you go back to 16th century England and the British Isles, what did the full moon mean to them? It meant travel, because you could travel by day and night with the full moon. So the meaning of the full moon has changed with each generation. For example, in Victorian England, it became lunatics. Everybody goes mad at the full moon. So the way I see it is, if we really kind of ground the truth about the moon without any of the fear, with the dark moon, is just working with the crone aspect of creation. And we all sometimes have things we want to let go, and we all have some things that we'd like to birth. But more than that, if you're on high ground, on elevated ground, and you watch the full crescent aspect of that beautiful dark moon in its glorious honey colored, you'll move to tears, because it's so beautiful. And like I say, within moments, it is bleached out. by the light of the sun in exactly the same place in the heavens for union.
That is powerful magic, and that's Celtic magic.
It is, it is. And it, like I say, it features in many, many different ancient sites, such as Stanton Drew, the second largest stone circle in the world. But the main thing about Celtic magic is, as I'm sure that you are and your listeners are aware of, but I will mention it nonetheless, is that we need to ask if the moon wants to work with us. We always need to ask and have that kind of permission, and then that's when the magic happens, rather than have the kind of Western mindset, if I may be so bold to say that, where we expect the moon to want to work with us. Sometimes that's not so, because they're wiser beings than us. They've been around for billions of years. They know when it's the right time for us to go forth and work with them.
Well, you know, and that, unless you have a question, Linda, to follow up. Okay, that brings me into the Fae, speaking of wiser beings, because I've had encounters with the Fae lately that have been absolutely life-changing and healing and profoundly connecting me deeper into my own psychic ability, connecting me into my heart, my inner child, connecting me into respecting the Fae as partners and equals, and seeing how that elevates them in their work when we work with them as ascendant beings, treating them as their equal. It brings them into their ascension, their own ascended expression, and then we can really co-create. Like, what is your experience of the Fae and magic?
The Fae. Well, let's put it into context, into Celtic tradition. If you imagine there's 3 concentric circles, okay, an innermost circle, that's where we live. That's the 3D realm, and the circle surrounding that we call the Middle Kingdom. That's where all the mythical beings reside, such as the Fae, the Elemental Kingdom, unicorns, dragons, wyverns, which I'll come across how the Celts saw a unicorn. It wasn't always white. That has been Christianized. And then the outer circle, for example, that's the realm of the heavenly one, the god and the goddess. So the Middle Kingdom is a higher consciousness than our 3D realm. So we can call in the beings from the Middle Kingdom. It's where Tolkien got his ideas from, Celticism, you know, with the Middle Kingdom. It's a reality, and that's where the Fae reside, and the 4 Fae of the ruling elements of fire, air, water, and earth. That's the order that Celtic magicians put the elements in. Fire is the oldest, then air, then water, then earth. So from the Middle Kingdom, once we make a connection to the mythical kingdom, then we can really work with these amazing energies, and they're symbolized on our altars by very simple objects. For example, the elementals called the of water, the Fae of the water, are the undines or the ondines. It depends how you pronounce them. So on your altar, you can honor the water Fae by a simple chalice like this. And they reside in a sacred circle in the west. So you salute the Fae in the west, for example. And you can have, for the element air, a sword. You can have a small arteme, which is a knife that you use for cutting not anything except for something etherically, and you can call in with this, or you can call in, I've got a 15th century wooden wand. It's made for 15th century wood. You can call in with this. Or if you're outside and you want a little bit of drama, then why not call in with a Bronze Age sword to the elemental beings? So each one has a corner, like east is air, west is water, south is fire, and north is earth. And we have made them into kind of mythical beings by saying the earth elementals are gnomes, but don't expect to see a traditional gnome. That's how we have clothed them they may appear to you something differently. And we call the element of air the sylphs, and fire are the salamanders. The fae of the salamanders, and they are fiery and they are quick, and they teach us about ourselves. So don't go calling the undines if you are an emotional wreck. You ask for the balancing element of the undines, because they won't respect you if you can't respect what they represent. Do you see what I mean? So sometimes we have work to do within ourselves before we call upon the fae.
Yeah, and what they tell me is that they also, if you don't respect yourself too, like they're not interested in working with you if you don't respect yourself. Like if you're calling in needy or you're calling in demanding, like you're not in a good relationship with yourself. And they do match energy for energy. Like that's what they're saying they match energy for energy. Well, I would like to know from you, they have expressed themselves to me as the ancient children of the earth. And I'm wondering, in your wisdom and knowledge, where did the Fae originate? How did they come into being? Because we all have this, these different earths, these densities you talked about. There's the celestial, then there's the Fae realm, these other realms, and then there's our realm. So they were created before us. And I'm wondering what was the intention of their creation?
The intention of the creation of the Fae are the wise ones. They're the wisdom holders. They're the ones that hold the past, the present, and the future. To them, there is no time. They are time immortal. So quite often you get a lot of legends with the Fae where you can be with them for a short time and time gets distorted. You could have been them with 10 years in Earth time, but 3 days in their time. So really, they are the keys to unlocking wisdom and magic. They're a key. And if we know which key fits which lock, then that's what the Fae want us to evolve. Where did they come from? I mean, in myth, sometimes they descended from the sky, sometimes they came out of the earth itself. But traditionally, like I mentioned, they are from the Middle Kingdom. It's outside of time. We're in time. Yeah. So the Fae are outside of time. That's their magic, and that's why they can come in quickly or slowly if they're in a playful mood. But they can really cross boundaries quite quickly because they live in a timeless zone where they can achieve anything, and they know the past, the present, and the future. So that's where they can gift us prophecy, for example.
That makes sense. Okay, Linda, do you have any reflections?
I have things that keep popping in my head. One of them is your opinion that fays can change their appearance, or that there are different types of fays that look different, and discussing that. And the other part is the relationship with Native Americans, because I know many who have talked about finding itty bitty tiny little arrowheads that are too tiny for people to make, and that they have found them and they call them their little, there's a lot of different words, but little people is what they like to refer, or many of them like to refer to them as. So just curious about those two things.
Yeah, the Fae come to you how your perception will see them. That's the magic. They are intimate to you. They become your friend of how you want to see them. So for example, the salamanders to me can be quite flamey and fiery and quick and darting like that. To you, they may be something else, and they're quite suspicious of us, the Fae. So it's wonderful that Katman's got this great relationship, because they can be suspicious of humans, and I don't blame them one bit. So yes, they can be many different things in many different guises, and they could come, for example, the undines, they could be a mermaid in one guise, because that's how it's been portrayed in times past. But again, you know, the element of water and the kingdom therein have come to me in many different guises. And one was a very beautiful blue being with very long silvery hair. That was one presentation of them. And because they stand outside of time, they can be changelings. So one minute you could be seeing this beautiful blue being with, say, white hair. The next minute it may morph into something else. It's the same being. It's showing you a different aspect. You know, we have different aspects to our personality. I could be Maria the knowledgeable one. I can be Maria the mum to my daughter. And the Fae are like that as well. They have many different expressions that they want to get across to humanity. And all you have to do is have an open heart to really resonate and call in the Fae with love and invite them, never summons. If you invite them in, they will come and they'll gladly help you heal. They'll help you heal your emotions. They'll help you heal your intellect. If you can't retain information and you invite the sylphs into your life, you'll get a better response from, you know, learning from books and things like that. So they are many different things to many different people.
So what would be the difference? Why would, let me say it this way. There's a two-parter question. Oh, Linda had a question about the arrowheads, Native American. What were your thoughts on this?
I mean, that is very fascinating. What I really love about the Native American approach is it's very similar to the ancient Druid order. For example, at Chaco Canyon, you've got that great North Road, which is a great North Lay, a fairy line to the Celts. That's what that would be called. And we don't have sort of really small arrowheads over here, to the best of my archaeological knowledge. But it does seem that, you know, there has been always in tradition the little people, you know, the leprechauns to the ancient Irish folk, they were always depicted as being very, very small. So I think, you know, they leave gifts as well in tradition. They gave 4 gifts, the Fae, to humanity. The Tuatha De Danann gave 4 gifts. One was a sword, one was a cauldron, one was a spear, and one was a stone, each representing an element. So they were the gifts. So I think those little arrowheads were the gifts of that Fae to show that they were there and that they have always been there outside of time as well. And that's why they can gift us things. They're very generous, the Fae, that they really are, and they do gift us. I mean, for example, I was connecting to the Fae in the Avebury area. Avebury is the largest stone circle in the world, and I wanted to ask, you know, connection to the ancestors and things like that. And the next minute I get a gift, a piece of ancient Bronze Age pottery. Or, for example, one gift that I was gifted is this here. It's a pre-coinage Bronze Age money ring, and that's 4,500 years old. So the ancestors will connect with us, and they will leave us these amazing gifts. They have done so since the dawn of time.
4,500 years old? Oh my God. I think a lot of people would have that under lock and key somewhere.
I wear it on my thumb. Sometimes around my neck, or sometimes on my thumb. And then when I'm thinking and writing about the ancestors, I touch it and clank it and make music with my other rings.
You are so magical. You ooze magic. I want to ask Kat Weeks is one of our really active members. So hopefully she's watching right now. She had a big question for you. So, and it touched on what you just talked about. So I figured I'd seize the moment. Does Maria consider Fae to be elementals or a specific race of beings? It's actually a couple questions. I have heard them spoken of in both of these ways, and also as being interdimensional. Who does she know the Tuatha De to be? I know I just fucked that up. However you said it earlier, to be. Yep. Many cultures have stories of the little people. We just talked about that. And she goes to list those off. They're often said to be from the stars. What does Maria believe to be their origin? Yeah, it's kind of my question. It's like they are star beings in a way. They are Earth star beings. But go ahead.
They are in one legend of the Tuatha De Danann. If we look to legend as being holy history rather than just legend and mythology, then what occurred was they descended from the stars down to earth, and they spent some time on earth, the Tuatha De Danann, and there they did. And then there was a battle, and they then descended into the mounts like Newgrange and all of those ancient sites. They became one with the earth. So in one respect, they came down from the stars. They lived amongst us to begin with. Then they descended into the earth, which was the Middle Kingdom. So they went from one place to another to another. So they resided even with us. And are they elementals? Well, in Celtic magic, you call the four elements the Fae of water and the elementals as well. It can be an interchangeable word rather than just the Fae. The Fae are high-ranking magical beings. That's what they are, standing outside of time with all the knowledge that ever was and will
Wow.
be. That's who they are. Now, if we understand that, Merlin was a very famous magician to the warrior king, King Arthur. And Merlin really is a title. It means a Merlin, a magician. It's just Merlin happened to be one of the most famous magicians. And the Fae will always want to work. And Merlin, so Merlin is a Fae-like energy now. Do you see what I mean? He's standing outside of time as well. And when we invite them in, they will help us. Maybe not in the way that you think they're going to. That's the way of the Fae. What you think is going to be A, B, C never is. It will go from A to Z or wherever, but they will help us restore balance in our lives. And I think just by honoring the four elements, we're honoring the four elements within us all, within Gaia on a bigger understanding. And in the Middle Kingdom, we are standing in time, but we can also stand outside of time with the Fae. That's a key to changing different kingdoms. Do you see what I mean? You can go from one kingdom to the other and back. And the places where the veil is thinnest offer the best connections.
Yeah, those are the portals. Right.
Absolutely. And also not just portals, it could be for example, where there's a crossing point of lays with earth currents, the crossing point of two earth currents, and many other patterns that Gaia emits. So vortex. The patterns that Gaia emits, could be a vortex as well. It could be a kind of energy pattern that's kind of like a star shape in the land. All of these create a moment where you can stand within and outside of time. And that's where the Fae can come in quite easily. And on certain days as well, like Midsummer's Eve, that's magical. That's a place outside of time. Beltane, that's May the 1st. That's another really, really sacred. That's where naturally, not with portals or anything, naturally the veil becomes thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner.
What I'm connecting into is how knowing how to use magic, then you can optimize these opportunities, these moments, to really connect with the Fae, or to connect with your higher self, or whatever it is, or Gaia, whatever it is that you're being called to and led to do. I've got about 3 questions swimming in my head. What's coming up for you right now, Maria?
Well, what I feel, is the spring equinox is just around the corner for us. And again, the veil is thinnest at Beltane and midsummer, but that's again a time which is, approaching, and it represents the element of the east. it represents air. It represents new beginnings as well. We were talking about that with dark moon, but with the sun's cycle, the spring equinox, when the day and nights are of equal length, representing balance, is the time when we can sow our seeds for the year ahead. So what is it you want to manifest in the year ahead? That day is the day when you can plant that seed. For example, it really is a wonderful way to work with the natural energies of the sun and the moon to help us grow. So what comes up for me at the equinox, I balance myself as best as I can. And then what do I want for the year ahead? I will start to think about and literally take a seed. You know, you can pick seeds from bushes in your locality. You don't have to go out and buy anything. You can make friends with the shrub that you're picking it from, asking it to donate itself to you. And then literally you could do it in your backyard, as you guys say. We're English, we call them gardens, darlings. We've got gardens. And you can take them into, you know, your backyard or your garden and literally plant it symbolically. Do you see what I mean? You're pushing the seed into the earth. You're requesting your manifestation for the year ahead with love and honesty. And then that's one act that we can do at the spring equinox, for example. And it's coming up. It's really soon.
That is beautiful. Kelly Anna has a question. Could you ask Maria if she could talk about the guardians in place of certain sacred spaces, maybe a story that she has personally encountered with them? Ooh, this is exciting. This is new.
Well, again, you know, each ancient site, that's right. And it was Kelly, wasn't it, who asked the question?
Kelly Anna.
Kelly Anna, what a lovely name. That sounds very Irish, Kellyanna. So yes, they are. Now again, each ancient site will have a different type of guardian, and this is a personal experience from Avebury with the power of a guardian. Imagine Avebury in its pristine day. It had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of standing stones, some weighing up to 100 tons, for example. And then in the 1724, they started to smash them up with fire and with water and break them to make houses, to make road rubble, and taken the sacredness away. A lot survived at these ancient sites, but some were deliberately damaged, and the guardians became cross. The guardians were, you know, enraged that this would happen. And so at Avebury, every now and again, the guardian comes up, and anyone who lives in a house that's made up of the smashed stones gets a rattling at the doors. And I have been high on the downs, so I'm above Avebury because it's on elevated ground, the downs, in a Sarsen house, where I felt the guardian going round and round and round the outside of the house. It felt like 3 little pigs in the room, and they're going to huff and puff and blow the house down. And then I realized, you know, if we just approach an angry guardian, and that guardian was angry, and we approach it with the sorrow of what our ancestors have done and apologies of that which was, and allow that kind of healing moment, it was almost like the guardian then came closer to me and has, I believe, helped me on and off. I wouldn't say all of the time, but appreciated it. These mythical beings can be guardians as well. We're all familiar, for example, with the symbol of the unicorn. A unicorn can be a guardian at ancient sites, but the Christians tended to make them all white and have that kind of purity of color. But that's not how they were first recorded in the 5th century by a historian called Ctesias. What Ctesias said was the unicorn, and this is the first written account, had a white body, but the horn coming out of its third eye was white, red, and black, and they're the colors of the triple goddess. For example, white representing maiden, the blood representing the mother, she that can conceive, and the black representing the crone aspect of the goddess. So in ancient times, that's how the unicorn was perceived. This is what I'm saying about how the fae come in. If you really see the old unicorn figures, they're not going to be all white, because again, it was recorded, other than the unicorns having this multicolored horn, as it were, they were often portrayed with a beautiful white body, quite often with some red on it, and blue eyes, for example. So it could have a red mane, a white body, and blue eyes. And that's where a lot of countries got their colors of their flags from: red, white, and blue. It's the color of the sacred unicorn of spirit.
So it's the unicorn. Yeah, speak more to that, because you've invoked it now. What does the unicorn teach?
The unicorn can teach us to go beyond where we expect to go, because these mythical beings can take us to places where we would only envision to go. Do you see what I mean? So for example, the unicorn can take you out of the ordinary and take you to the extraordinary, raise your spirit, raise your consciousness. And if you're lucky enough to be honored to ride on the unicorn's back, for instance, then you can go from one dimension to the other, from one star system to another. So the unicorn can take us on journeys that we could only imagine. And we will come back from a journey with a unicorn energy, with a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom, and our whole energy being opened with the power of the unicorn. And the unicorn is also, I mean, again, in mythology, it's not always this meek creature. The unicorn isn't a meek creature, but will always bend and bow to the beautiful, pure of heart, or the virgin in ancient myths. So they can be aggressive creatures, but again, it's because of the suspicion of humanity as a whole. And once we open up our hearts and say, look inside of me and allow me to go on a journey with you, and then yes, that will happen. So that's one type of guardian, which is the unicorn. It's the purest of pure. And in its, like I say, in its original sense, it will have the colors of red, white, and blue. And even on the kind of royal crest of the royal family here in the British Isles, you have the lion and the unicorn. They're opposite each other, power symbols. Okay, these mythical creatures are always present in the Middle Kingdom. We just can't see the Middle Kingdom, well, not most of us, and they're always willing to cross over from the Middle Kingdom into our domain. So they're very powerful. They really are. And if you have unicorn energy in your life, you are privileged beyond.
Well, that's just so beautiful. I'm tuning into everything. I'm just tuning into everything in England, and the energy pouring up in terms of how these things have been hidden, but they're not buried. They're still alive. They still show up in the relics of the civilization. Speaking of unicorn, this is so timely. Claire Wood question: do you recommend trying to clear these ancient sites from negative hijacking? Love from Claire and the unicorns. Kiss, kiss.
Oh, Claire, that's so lovely. That's warmed my heart. Do you know what? There's unsung heroes at ancient sites. There are people that I know from the Druid community and from, just average people that do clear up, because in places like Glastonbury, places like Stonehenge attract the dark and the light workers. Make no mistake. So when there has been a dark ritual at a site, there was quite a lot in lockdown. It really drew the dark out because there was so much fear. And that's what they feed on and gain. They love that kind of fear element. So people went out and they were cleansing the areas. So yes, the areas do get get cleansed by unsung heroes that I don't want anything for it. That's what they feel their job is. So we have modern day guardians in a way of all of the ancient sites. And whenever I can, I will go out and clear the sites as well. Normally sort of once a month, I would probably do that. And I get called to sites if there has been trauma there as well, because people go to an ancient site, and I may have mentioned this before, but it's worth saying because of Claire's beautiful words. We go into sites and we often take our emotional baggage in with us. We've all done that probably from time to time, but there are points in an ancient site where you can go and cleanse yourself before you enter. It's called the neutral cleansing point. So you don't have to take your emotional baggage in with you. All ancient sites have that neutral zone, as it's called, where you can just cleanse yourself and then go into the site. So that's one of my top tips, is you just don't go walking into a site, you know, locate a really good neutral zone, cleanse your auric field, cleanse your energy, and then go into the ancient sites. So that's one of my top tips. And then once we're cleansed, that's when the mythical beings get attracted to us as well, because they see that we have done that. And if we think mythically as well, and what do I mean by that? When I take people to ancient sites, and myself included, I have often thought, oh, I feel that at a site. I feel this. I feel that. But if we take the I out of it, instead of I feel this, and go to an ancient site and say, how are the stones today? How are you? Not I. Then I take my ego out. Do you see what I mean? And I'm inviting the mythical to come closer to me. So it's wonderful to say, I feel this and I feel that. Of course it is. But sometimes if we just step away and remove the I, then again, the gateways open a little bit more readily.
Maria, if you enter an area that feels very sacred, and it may not be one that is designated with stones, but you instinctually know that it's sacred, how do you find that cleansing area? Do you use dowsing? Do you look for signs within nature to find that cleansing area before approaching?
What a wonderful question, Linda, and you always speak with such grace. Yes, you could use dowsing, but looking to nature is always a wonderful thing, because you often have a guardian tree, a guardian shrub. For example, in places like Arizona, the guardians there that live for a long time are the cotton trees, the cottonwood trees, I think they're called. Forgive me if I get a few Americanisms wrong. So it could be a tree. It could be a tree. It could be a shrub. But if you do use dowsing, before you go into a site, place your dowsing rod on the ground of the site. For one, so don't even ask anything. Place your rod on the ground, and with humble heart, just ask the dowsing rod to do its best to work with the guardians and the ancestors and the spirit of place to help you understand the place and the ancestors. Then pick the rod back up and ask. Connect it to where you're dowsing. So, for example, if I take my dowsing rod that's doused Stonehenge, for instance, and I'm going to Egypt in a couple of weeks' time, I will prepare my rod for Egypt. Do you see what I mean? And when I get to Egypt, I'll place it on the ground. Quite often, you know, you don't have to have a ceremonial manner. I mean, sometimes it's about convenience. So sometimes I think, okay, I haven't got much time on the Giza plateau because you're a bus full of people. I'll just quickly put it on the sand. I'll rub the sand into it like a cleansing motion. You don't have to do it over a 20-minute protracted ritual. Sometimes you just do it as and when, and then that connects it to the energy of place.
That's great. What's your, Linda's an earth sign. What's your sign?
Water. I'm Pisces.
You're Pisces or water. Okay, and I'm fire. Interesting combination we got today. All right. So Kellyanna says, absolutely amazing. Thank you, Maria. Joanne Wheeler, she says something that I can't, it's Gaelic, I can't say it. So Seed Meal Falt to you, Maria. I'm not sure that wasn't it, but what's your view? Pardon me, forgive me, everyone. Forgive me, all the fays, forgive me. I'm sorry, I butchered your language. What's your view on guardians like the bean seed, the banshee? Yeah, crying for 5 ancient families of Ireland. Myself and my uncle heard one years ago before a death in the family. And then she says it sounded like a dying fox.
I know the banshee, what can you say? You know, it's an aspect of nature. I mean, everything is an aspect of nature, of Mother Nature, whether it's from the Middle Kingdom or not. And, you know, from the ancient gods, the netters of ancient Egypt is where we get the word nature from. And the banshee is like that. It's almost like a call of death. To some regard, and when you know it's supposed to be a real ill omen if you hear the banshee, you know, screaming. I've never heard it myself, and I think, you know, to have heard that, you know, within that family story is an absolutely incredible thing. But again, sometimes things come as warnings to us, like a prophecy. So maybe in the kind of Merlin spirit of things, we could interpret that as a warning of something that could unfold. And you know, we have as well, very similar in a way to the banshee, the Morrigan, which are kind of a warrior goddess aspect of creation as well, and often on in mythology of wars that are going on, she would appear as the crow or the raven bird, and that would be the omen as well, a portend of death. Again, to some regard, you know, I mean, you can't outrun the moon, you can't outrun banshees, you know, but at the same time, I think with the spirit of wise Merlin, if you're ever worried about anything within the Celtic magic, okay, Celtic magic is all about being creative. So I could do a ritual, you could do one. The more creative that you are, the more of the green ray spirit it is. And if you're ever in worry of something, call him Merlin. I mean, Merlin is a wonderful, wonderful, wise wisdom energy to call in. So, and if you're lacking courage in life and you're feeling fearful, well, a wonderful archetype of the Celtic magic is King Arthur, the warrior king. Have King Arthur by your side and you will feel that you can take on the world. Or Queen Boudica of Celtic fame. She was a warrior queen in her own right. She took on the Romans. She really did. And she probably, if she'd done something slightly differently, would have won. And then in Celtic mythology as well, we have the wonderful Ceridwen, the shape-shifting hag. So sometimes they're very fearful, but if we communicate with them, I believe, in the right way, they're teaching us something about ourselves, you know, but we can always counteract that with calling in the other energies, such as Merlin will want to work with most people. Merlin is great. He's a wisdom keeper. He wants us to grow up. Come on, humanity, knocking at your door, grow up. That's what, you know, the magical beings want of us. We have come of age now, okay? We have come of age. We need to take responsibility for our magic and what we co-create. And I think that's where, when the veil is thin, we can call in. And even when the veil isn't thin, Merlin is always there.
Nice. Do you have a follow-up question with that, Linda?
I did, and then I was so caught up in what you were
saying. Right? It's like you go into the story and you're with her and you're just like enthralled. Well, I'll hop in with this and then you can grab it back.
Okay.
What is your feeling on the Fae incarnating as humans, and do they do that? Is it likely that they do that? Do you know that they do that? Is it something of service? What's your understanding?
Do you know what? It's funny that did you ask that question? Was that from the audience? Sorry,
That
Katman.
was we've talked about that in other conversations. So it's from me. I have my own understanding of
Brilliant.
that, but it's kind of like on the
Yeah.
behalf of.
Well, yeah, I think there's kind of two camps, to be fair, like different schools, two different opinions, where some have said, you know, they're very separate to us, they're, you know, in the Middle Kingdom, that's it. But again, my personal experience as a regression therapist, and I might have said I was Dolores Cannon's guide for many years to sacred sites. I didn't study QHHT. I had already, you know, passed the kind of British equivalent of QHHT, dare I say that. But yes, and so I have regressed people that have been the Fae. So for me, I think there has been a crossover at some time with what's called a changeling, where the Fae may come and change over a baby in the crib to the Fae. Or I really do think that the Fae can be attracted to us, because when we look again to the holy history of the land, the fairy king or the fairy queen, they can be quite taken by us mortal humans, you know, and want to invite us into their realm, and sometimes even into their beds.
All right. Well, do tell. What do you know about that? That do they produce offspring then that then become these? You know, I mean, because to me, it's like also that you could do that on a celestial level or on an astral level, where you're intermingling, you know, your essence on an astral level and saying, let's combine who we are and incarnate, and help the humans to bring the Fae back into consciousness by being a Fae on the planet. You know.
I think there can be that crossover. That's my personal thing, mainly because of the regressions that I have done. But I remember once in my 20s, I lived on the edge of quite a large town. I was married at the time. I was contemplating divorce at the time as well, actually. And I remember walking to the apple trees that were in the kind of last remains of an orchard, and the apple's very sacred to the Druid, because if you slice it across middle ways, it has a pentagram, doesn't it? If you slice the apple across and turn it up, it has the symbol of Venus, the pentagram. And there were three exceptionally tall older people there, guys, and I was talking about the apple, and it's very sacred, and that's why we apple bob at Halloween. It's to get the love of the apple. It represents love and fertility is well, and healing to some regard. And they told me, and this is a true story, they said, we are the Fae. And so I was looking at them and thinking, yeah, what sort of thing? And they were telling me about the sacredness of all of the trees in the area. And I said, hang on a minute, because I put my bag on the ground, and I've always, as an author, had a pen and a kind of notepad. I went to get my pen and my notepad, looked up, and they'd gone. But then I could see the area all around, and I was calling out, hang on, you haven't finished. I remember I was on my early journeys, I'm going, hang on, you haven't finished. And then I realized that the Fae can come in when we're at times of, what do? I didn't know what I should do. Should I stay married to this corporate person? I'm not that person. Should I be doing this with in my life? And I've been walking the land saying that. Do you see what I mean? And it become one, and then the Fae will come close. And the Fae have always been close to my family, because my great grandfather, he sadly lost his legs in an agricultural accident, but it was the best thing, he said, happened to him, because every day the Fae, the little leprechauns rather, would come and smoke a clay pipe with him, and he would talk to the leprechauns, the little people. And so it's been in my family. I think that the Fae, that doesn't mean you have to have a heritage. If you call out to, like I said, to Merlin, to Queen Guinevere, to King Arthur, they're there for us. He's the once and future king, not just for England, I think for humanity. And so we can call upon Arthur at any time, and he will give you strength second to none. I love the Arthur archetype energy.
Well, I was just tuning into your great grandfather was Irish then. So you must be okay, that's the Irish and the okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
County Clare. He was from what's called County Clare
Okay.
in Ireland.
Oh my gosh, your heritage is so rich. Joanne Wheeler says, thank you, Maria, for responding to my question. The death in question was my great aunt who lived a long life and died peacefully. And beautiful advice on courage. I will try and remember it. So, that brings me to this question. Yeah, I think what the Fae just showed up in your life when you were contemplating a divorce. And their message was Fae. Their message was, we are the message. Your mystical path is the answer. Like, we're showing up to you as an instant reflection. The Banshee shows up for Joanne and her family to say, take courage, take strength, don't be afraid, and so the different beings show up with different, with all respect. And the different Faes come in with different specific qualities of lessons, different specific styles. My experience with a goblin was all about taking back personal power and being able to, in taking back my personal power and balance and reclaiming my inner child. It was this beautiful thing. And it's like, goblins are monsters, goblins are scary. And it's like, no, like what you're saying, this is like the divine energy showing up in your life to mirror you back something that you need to get. And I'm wondering if you would speak to your knowledge on that.
Well, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. What a goddess would energy would manifest for me would not necessarily be the same for you, but they're portrayed in a way, like you're saying, the goblins portrayed as often kind of being a bit ugly and a bit scary, and the pixies, we're all familiar with that. But you're right, they are teaching us about ourselves. They're in a way the greatest teachers from the Middle Kingdom. They really are, because they can be like a mirror to us and our heart energy sometimes, or to our paths. The Fae, maybe this will be interesting to Joanna, for example. They often kind of shift our paths a little bit. The Fae are good at doing that as well. Should you be on that path? You should be on this path. So they could be many things and at one time, if the goblins come back to you, for example, when they congratulate you, if you've taken back all of that power, they could come back, but maybe in a slightly different persona as well.
That's actually what has happened. Which, oh my God. So this brings me to my next question. What are gargoyles?
What are our gargoyles? Do you know what I really think that they are? Because in medieval England and Ireland, actually, you have gargoyles that are guardians of place as well. And again, they're often portrayed as being quite fearful looking and quite often with really piercing eyes or something like that. But they have a very protective guardian quality about them, things that are scary in Celticism and have been portrayed in horror films and lots of other stories besides, are a way to stop us working with divine energy. I really feel that. So I think, yes, gargoyles can be very, very protective of space. They protect churches, they protect stately homes. So you go to a big stately home and they've all got gargoyles everywhere. You go to some old villages in Wiltshire where I live. I live in a very rural county amid the stone circles, and you'll go to villages that have their own guardians of gargoyles on the houses. For example, whereas in possibly in parts of your culture with they're in Pennsylvania, I can't think what they're called, they go around in horse-drawn carts, their culture, can't think of them. They have like hex signs where they're quite protective. So over here, yes, protective, I would say.
And do you know what the legacy of gargoyles are, or if there's any connection, what their connection is with angels or archangels? Do you happen to know any of that information about where they come from and all of that good business?
Well, again, it's all to do with mythology, and what is like I mentioned, it's holy history. But do you know what I think is the best route to finding out truth is to ask your own self that.
Nice, nice.
So what maybe this is the Celtic path. The Celtic path is all about your own creativity and your own answers. So when we go within and say, what does that mean to me, which may be something completely different to you, that's the Celtic path. The Celtic path is supposed to be the part of inspiration. Celts don't really do angels, for example. They see that as being quite Christianity, where you have angels versus demons and things like that, and the good and versus the bad. To the Celtic path, there are not necessarily angels as the Christians portray them. They're more fae of the Middle Kingdom. So, a lot of Celtic magicians don't believe in demons or angels. That's not their path. That's not to say they wouldn't respect that. But when somebody once said to me, one of my teachers, what's Merlin? And I was going, oh, Merlin's a magician. Merlin's this, Merlin's that. And Merlin is this. Not to me, it isn't. And that's what my teacher said, not to me. So when we go within for the answers, that's the truth. So yes, Merlin is a magician, but it wasn't to my teacher. Merlin was something else. He never told me what. He said, that's my magic. Because if a mythical being teaches you something, you can kind of half give that teaching on, but that's your magic and it's personal to you. And it may not have that same meaning to another person. So when we think about these mythical beings, it's about our personal relationship with them. That's the most important.
I really value that so much, because it is where the direct communication comes in. It's where the relationship is built. And what they've told me time and again, both from the Fae, and from, my celestial, my people, they're like, it's a relationship. This is a relationship. You are an equal to us. We may be, yeah, there's more advanced in terms of more advanced psychic, more advanced telepathic, whatever, but this is a relationship and you're an equal in this relationship. It's a partnership. And, and the Fae are wanting to partner with people so much in terms of waking the Gaia consciousness back up into our collective consciousness. And they've just been really cheering on any interaction possible. And I'm wondering, so I'm just trying to listen to because I had again, 3 questions. It's so, I just get enthralled in what you're laying down. So we'll speak of artwork then, I guess, Fae and the arts, how the Fae and the arts come together, because I feel like that's what is yeah.
Well, again, I feel that the doorways are half open at the moment for most of us. Yeah, the doorways are half open, and what the Fae want to bring us on in all aspects, whether it's the art, whether it's the craft, they want us to come through halfway, meet halfway. We're at this point now with the kind of magical arts, which is, I presume that's what you meant, the magical arts.
I meant the arts in general, because creativity, but that's okay. I mean, it's because it's creativity, and I think again, creativity and the magical arts, that is part of one and the same. You are developing a relationship with your craft. It is part of your creativity. It is part of your art, whether you're a visual artist or a dancing artist or whatever. It's an aspect of your art.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and where I was going with that is what the Fae really like when the door's half open or you're where the veil is thinnest. You have in Celticism, you always call 3 times. You always say things in 3s. Yeah. So, if I was addressing Merlin cometh, cometh, cometh. Do you see what I mean? You kind of call in 3s. And I do think the whole thing about Druidry as well is inspiration, the Arwen. That's the heart of Druidry, the Arwen, A-W-E-N, it's Welsh. And I may have mentioned that before. And that's the inspiration. That's where everything comes from. The arts, the muse, the song, the dance, the poetry, everything comes from the Arwen. And a goddess intimately associated with the Arwen is Breed, and she's often pronounced Bridget or Bridget, but she's actually pronounced Gaelic breed, like, you know, the breed of a horse. And she kind of allows us to draw in the arts. So she's also the teacher of poetry, for example, or anything like that. So if we want the muse, we can call upon the great goddess Breed to give us the inspiration. And where Breed is at her most powerful is around like a water source, a spring, a well, a stream. Do you see what I mean? And she's often traditionally, again, she may not appear to you like this, but traditionally she's dressed in green, white and blue. They're the colors of Breed. And we still have, you know, around the times of Beltane and other times besides, well dressing in honor of Breed, for example. But she's the one that really will help you with the arts, because that's what her stance is. And poetry as well is very close to the Celtic heart.
Now, you've recently become my muse. So tell me about the muses and how they show up in terms of the Fae.
When we feel that we are ready to co-create, whatever we're going to co-create, I could be writing a book, you could be the artist, and someone else could be, you know, doing what, whatever it is. One way where we can call upon the muse is and it's such a simple thing to do, but sometimes it can really create something quite powerful. And that's called literally the knock, where we knock 3 times with firmness to invite them in, like you're knocking on the door to invite. Do you see what I mean? What do you do if you're coming around my house? You know, okay, you could ring the bell, but you used to knock, and you knock 3 times. The other thing that we can do with Celtic magic that is very simple, because even, you know, that knocking, it's calling in. Do you see what I mean? It's calling in, and say it 3 times. Breed cometh, Breed cometh. Cometh, cometh, cometh. And you can get into a rhythm of things, but there's a way we can balance ourselves with magic really quickly. And I know I need balance. We all need balance in our lives from time to time. One way we can do that is we can go up like that with our hands, yeah, and that's fire, yeah, then down like that, earth, yeah. So you go fire, earth, air, and then below your belly, water, balance. And you can do that quite discreetly. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, I have to. If you're on your own, you can call up to fire. But if you're, you know, say you're hanging around someone and you think they've just unbalanced me, which some people can't they? They have that effect. Fire, earth, air, water, balance. And you can do that very discreetly, talking to someone. Do you see what I mean? You can do it very, very discreetly, and then kind of do it in gesture. Yes. Do you see what I mean? And I've just balanced myself completely against your energy, and that's one way we can balance. So again, Celtic magic can have very practical applications. Do you see what I mean? It's a really good way of protecting yourself. It's called the 4 elements, but you always do balance. And if you can, fire, earth, wavy air, water, ideally a little bit below, balance, heart. Yeah. And just if you can, always just press against the heart. And if you want to share that, say I'm on a train. I was on a train the other day, and there was a baby crying. The mum looked exhausted. I felt she needed it. So I did the 4 elements, then share like that. So you can do the 4 elements, go to the heart, just temporarily, and then go share. Like that. And, you know, and hopefully that will help bring balance in. So it's not just about balance for ourselves. And sometimes, you know, standing stones will need balance. And often I'm at a stone doing this, and then I go share, and I'm giving the standing stone the balance back, or a tree. I mean, these are what's called practical Celtic magic tips.
Yeah, it's like earth magic that's coming. It's just like earth magic that comes out of your body as you being a conduit. It's you becoming a conduit, and you're doing it for yourself, and you're doing it for the world. And I kept thinking, staying alive. And it's like, and you kind of are, like, you know, like you're bringing it. You're staying alive, but you're bringing in the energy. You're grounding yourself. You can do a little disco movement at the end.
I love that. I love that. I'll never think about that music again in the same memory.
But
that's hilarious.
Linda, yeah, I was gonna say, pop in.
Okay, that brings me into another question. Kelly Anna and I thought about basically the same question at the very same time. So the question that she has is, what can we do on the earth energy lines to help the earth, fellow humans and animals? Mine was very similar. I had, in fact, I've been reading Guy Needler's book, The History of God. And when he was on his show, he spoke very highly of you. And he talked in his book about ley lines. And one of the places he was at, they were like whipping. They weren't static, but they were brought into alignment with stones that had been placed. And I'm curious how that can what we can do in that, where we feel something is where we want to contribute to
but
this,
the best
working
way
with the elements and Fae and everyone.
Yeah, with leys, they do attract all the mythical creatures for one, and their guardian is often the big black dog, goat dog. So that's the guardian of leys, and that's by people like John Michel, one of the world's greatest geomants, for example. Leys that aren't static can be problematic. They really can. So if we feel something moving around, the ancients would have done acupuncture to steady it. They would have put the stones into the ground. It's like, you know, putting in needles to a meridian line. So whether it's the ancient Chinese or the ancient British geomancers, that's what would have been done. Energy travels especially fast along a lane. They're not conducive to live above, and they're not conducive to be around long term. They're simply not. They will take the energy is too fast. Energy goes really fast in a straight line, but they're really good to go and work with to be re-energized. Yeah, it's a fallacy of it's a good place to be on the crossing point. All of the agricultural trial tests done with foodstuffs with stunted growth on leys done in the 1970s. So they're places where the energy travels especially fast. Now, if you have a ley system, which is a ley line with a current entwining it, which is male, and a current that entwines it female, like the caduceus symbol, yeah, the currents are the more harmonic and healing to be around. So we look for the earth currents because they don't flow as fast. And I may have mentioned before, and it's worth mentioning again, that's why Chinese geomants, people that work with earth magic, will never live on a straight line. They always live in a curve by the street. Their roofs are always boned so that the chi can't pick up speed and become what's called a poison arrow, sha qi. They look for sheng qi, which is the earth currents. Okay, so it's the earth currents that are the most conducive, but everybody just speaks of ley lines, ley lines, ley lines. And, I often say to, people, you're 30 years behind the research here. We've moved on from that, and we're thinking of the earth currents, the earth patterns. Do you see what I mean? We know lays, but the ley systems are far, far more powerful than a ley line. So we look for ley systems in the land, the male and the female currents entwine in them like the caduceus symbol, like that. That's the power in the land. That's what all earth magic geomants look for.
So for me, is that what I feel? Because I know technically where I live, there are no ley lines, but I feel currents.
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling, potentially.
Absolutely. I mean, you're very sensitive, Linda, and the earth currents, seriously, are far more conducive to good health than a ley will ever be. A ley will take your energy if you live above it. We've known this now for 100 years. Or so. So what you're probably feeling is, and then just communicate with it, is it male or the female? Now, if it's a male earth current, you'll feel an extra little charge almost. And if it's a female one, it's kind of more gentle, nurturing, soothing. One will react more to the sun at its zenith. So a male earth current really likes the sun at noon. Yeah. Whereas, the female earth currents like the moon at zenith time, full moon. So you can work with the energies at different times of the day, depending on what type of earth current it is. For example, one goes to a lunar phase, one goes to a solar phase.
And when you say work with it, going back to the question, if we want to work with it to help our fellow human beings and the planet and the animals, do you have guidance for us?
Yes, again, we ask that as long as you always ask permission to work with an earth current, then yes, and you're granted permission. So I call that protocol. You have to go through the protocol, and again, the earth does want to work with us. So if you imagine that an earth current isn't just going one way, people visualize earth currents as going, like a river, they go in one direction all of the time. But if you imagine they're doing that, they're going like that. This is how powerful they are. Lays tend to go in one direction, but earth currents will be going like this. And so you can feel which part is going where if you walk across it. Okay. So when you start working with earth currents, what I suggest to my students is start walking across them. Time and again, how am I feeling? Do I feel a little bit more energy here? Then walk along them and on different levels of them. Do you see what I mean? Different widths, and we can start to understand how it's flowing. Then stand on the earth current. So you're getting to know it. Do you see what I mean? To work with earth energy, you kind of got to get to know it, like you get to know a friend, and then just stand and see where your body's going. I'm moving forward. I think I'll go forward on this line, and then just keep walking until your feet naturally want to stop a little bit. And where your feet kind of stop, that's your point where you can really start working with that energy current. So at places like Henge, I encourage people to go walking on the earth currents, and you'll just naturally stop. And sometimes you feel a bit of a pull to stop, or a bit of a sense to stop. And then what's a wonderful way to work with somebody that's poorly, that's ill or out of balance. And let's say you've got somebody that you're working with, and you're working on your earth current that you've got to know. Take a few deep breaths, breathe in. We all know how to do that. Breathe in with the heart, and imagine the earth energy is coming up through the soles of your feet, up to your heart center, out through the hands, and start healing with the earth magic around that person by sensing where that earth energy should go, and to put that earth energy in, so we can draw the energy up and then heal that way. Quite simply, it's a wonderful feeling. And what I've done at places like Avebury, where there's massive, very, very wide earth currents that flow internationally all over the world, we've had literally one person doing the earth energy work, 5 or 6 of us, and the person right at the end is going to get the healing, and we do energy exchange. Give the energy to me, I'll pass it to you, I'll pass it to you, I'll pass it to you, and then the person at the end gives it. So you can pass earth energy from like heart to heart. Do you see what I mean? Or literally hand to hand. It depends how you want to do it. So it's always about rising it up. We call it the serpent rising, the cobra rising up. It's a dragon line. It's a serpentine meandering being is what earth currents are. So they can be like cobra-like and kind of come up, and they'll be wary of you. But then when the energy exchange, that's a very healing moment. And we can do that for humanity. We can push that out to a place. So we can draw the energy up from an earth current, push it out to the local school, push it out to your local surgery, put it to the local hospital. You can charge up your community by working with earth currents, and imagine it coming up like a cobra. You know, it's very, very, very powerful. And then if a mythical being is around, I often ask them to, you know, go to, can you put your energy around the surgery, gallop round it thrice, really quick, gallop round, and then you're kind of putting a protection around your local community. So there's many ways that we can work with these earth energies. And if you're working with underground water, you can cleanse your own body water that way, which I may have mentioned before, because we're made of water. And once we start to work with our own body water by cleansing it, we cleanse the outer self with showers and with baths. And when we start to cleanse the inner self, that's when we start to really feel rejuvenated and regenerated by cleansing our body water above underground water. It makes you feel so fresh and you know, almost like you've regenerated. It makes your skin feel good. It makes you feel good.
Fantastic. I want to talk to you about the whole working with the earth, and you're giving us all of these opportunities, and it's all about coming into our power and coming into our humility at the same time. It's a balance of power and humility. It's huge. I wanted to ask you about tree magic along these lines, and if you'd explain tree magic to us. And then Eric Unger, former guest, longtime Eye Salon member, Eric Unger, has a question that will also pop in here.
Okay. Trees tend to, if you're on a ley, the trees that really like leys tend to be pines. They thrive very well on. Some tree species don't like leys. They will not go on them. But you get pine trees that do. And other trees sacred to the Druids, which are the hazel, the apple, the yew, they're very sacred to the Druids. They always grow above very, very deep yin water born within the earth. And that's the most powerful type of earth energy that you can have. It's a spiral that goes round and round and round, and 6 days after a new or full moon, it will reverse back. Those trees are naturally attracted to that deep water, so they're great places to cleanse our body water. Now, if we want to work with trees like us have an auric energy field. So way back, before you even come to the tree, that's when you request the permission to work with the spirit of the tree, the dryad, or just call it the tree spirit, whatever you wish. And again, we ask permission, and then you walk towards the tree, introducing yourself as you go. Hi, I'm Maria. I'd like to work with you today, please, or whatever is what you want to do. And then when most people go towards a tree, it feels so natural to hug it, doesn't it? That feels natural. But to connect a tree to a tree, you connect to its chakra system. So you put your back against the tree. And that's one way where the energy will then start to come up through your chakra system as well. So you press your spine against the back of the tree and then start to work with cleansing and clearing your own chakra system, because you're connecting to all of those deep roots that tends to bring energy all the way up through it and then out through the energy system as well. And one of the most sacred is the yew tree, and an equivalent to that in America is hemlock. Hemlock tree, they're very sacred as well, but hazel is the tree of wisdom for us here. It's said in mythology to grow in the middle of the earth where there's a mighty well. I call that yin water. Water is born within the earth, and the hazel trees grow around it. It's the most sacred inner well. But that sacred inner well is within all of us. Everything in mythology isn't external, it's in us. Do you see what I mean? It's in us that we can work with. We are the mythology. We are living legends in our own right. And that's, again, the creative side of the Celts is, oh, that might mean that to you. This is what it means to me. But together we create legends and we create stories.
You're a living legend in your own right. I'm sure you get called legend a lot. What a legend. She's a legend.
I'm bringing back the sacred trees, the cottonwood. You know, a lot of people Western culture will pull the cottonwoods out because they take all the water. But the natives revere the cottonwood, and the Hopi will actually do ceremony and ask for the cottonwood root to carve their kachinas. And only the cottonwood root.
Yes, it was in Arizona where I learned about the cottonwood, talking to one of the park rangers there. I think you call them the park rangers, and they were telling me all about the cottonwood. And then I looked it up, and it is a very, very sacred tree, and I was very drawn to it. But I didn't know what it was because we don't have cottonwood trees. You know, and I love it when these new energies, beings come into our life. So what I really loved when I was in your country was being introduced to all these new beings, like cottonwood, you know, like cactus that grows out. I was mesmerized by the smell of the deserts. You know, and it's a wonder. We can find Eden wherever we go. We do live in Eden. That's the great thing about Gaia. You know, she gives us so many opportunities, and we like I say, we come of age now. That's where the Celtic law is at the moment. We're of age. We need to take responsibility and power to make sure Gaia is safe.
Thanks for that quote down there for everybody. We can find Eden wherever we go. I just think that's so beautiful. All right, Eric Unger from Austria. Question: how do I best interact with the small transparent flimmerings? Oh, flimmering is a word now. All right, with the small transparent flimmering beings that seem to be swirling around stones and trees.
Oh, well, that's lovely. And how to connect? Was that the question? Sorry.
Yeah, how do I best interact with the small transparent flimmering beings?
Yeah, when they're the really, really kind of small beings, okay, a really good way to interact is to go down on the ground, make yourself smaller. okay, for one, rather than being a big person. So go down onto the ground, or sit on your knees, as it were. You see what I mean? Like you talk to a child, you go down on their level, don't you? You don't stand hovering above them. And then place your hands out, yeah, in a kind of given way. But again, balance yourself and, you know, come from the heart. And then put your hands out. Then invite the little beings to just go onto your hands. Like that, and feel if they do come onto your hand, you'll feel some kind of sensation. Some of the little beings, they can really play around with me. Little beings can be very playful. And I can remember when I was introducing myself to some little beings, and I'd spent some time, you know, getting ready, and they were fluffing my hair up all of the time like this, and I was really getting annoyed with the little beings. So they can be a little playful. They can be a little playful. But one way to do that is to, you know, put out your hands. But again, they can go anywhere. They might go on top of your head, ears. They like ears, so they might play around with the ear area. But yes, always go down. Always with an open heart. Balance yourself through the 4 elements. Whatever you do, do that balance, and then interact. And then after which, it's not a case of saying thank you. Where did you meet them? Was it by a stone? Well, be the guardian of that place. If you see rubbish around there, pick it up and go back again, and care for that place. Care for where they are from. That's a really good top tip, because then that you become a part of their life and a part of their place. Do you see what I mean? And you'll be like a part of the family before too long. But for my personal journey, may not be yours, Eric, but yeah, they're always playful around me, the little folk. And even once was I felt a tugging at my back jean pocket, which had a tiny little rip in it, and it was a good favourite pair of jeans. And I thought, yeah, they're going to tug it and rip it just a little bit more, because this is what's going to happen today. And I felt that little kind of tap in. So for me, my journey is just like, oh, the little people.
It's so special. That is just so magical. And there's a question connected to the little people. So again, so timely. Everything's been so synchronistic. Anne-Marie Delmont Letcher Antenna, no less, asks what to do if a dwelling is on several straight paths between fairy rings.
Yes, I mean, again, the ancients would have never built a dwelling there, no way. But sometimes it is. One way that you can do it, there's a school of thought in geomancy which I don't like, and that's where they move the energy lines, and they will just say we're going to move it with power of thought, and or they're going to put metal bars in the ground. I may have spoken about that before, which treats Gaia like a vampire, and it moves the energy lines. But if you do that, you are moving an ecosystem, because you might not like the energy lines, but some gnats, some ants, some creatures, they like that energy line. And if you start messing around with Gaia's veins and arteries, I don't think it's a good idea. But what you can do to minimize the effect of living above lays or fairy lines, for example, is use your sensitivity or use a dowsing rod to find out where it's entering the house. Okay, and you can do that by walking around the house if it's a detached house, or within the inside of the house where the rod would move. That's the line, and find out if it's coming in or going out, which is the flow direction of it. Oh, it's flowing that way. Do you see what I mean? Find what's called the flow direction of the lay. Now, let's say, for example, you've walked around the house, you found where one of the lines is coming in and it's flowing that way. For instance, then take a really good absorbing crystal like black tourmaline or shungite, or something like that, and walk with the crystal or whatever you're working with in the flow of the line, and then place it at the entry point where it comes into the house. Do you see what I mean? You've gone around, you found where it's come in. Now you find where it leaves. Probably it's really easy. It's a straight line. So if you find where it's coming in, just get your dowsing rod to kind of tweak where it's going, and then put the crystal on the outside of that. And then you're easing the energy in the home, but not on the outside where the animals might like it. So that's one way in which you can just absorb. The crystals will start absorbing the energy. Or take 2 pieces of copper wire and put them around each other. It's called making a coil. You can do that by buying 2 pieces of wire, pulling them tight in a vise, getting a drill, slowly putting the drill on it. It will plait itself like that, make it into a circle, and that diffuses everything to do with geopathic stress. It's the most easiest form of a geopathic stress energy device, and it's not going to cost you that much to do. It's called a coil, and that's a safe form. You can lie it on the ground that way, you could put it up that way, it doesn't matter, and after 3 months it will diffuse it. And people in gardens use copper because slugs won't go across them and things like that, because it sets up an electrical field, and that electrical field attracts all the ley energy. Do you see what I mean? So that would be what I would say is a really easy way of, if you're living on those crossing points of those lines. They will become active if they're a solar line at the middle of the day, like an earth current, and if it's a lunar line, a feminine ley, then it's going to be active around the time of the new and full moons. So you have to find out if it's male or female. The easiest way to do that is simply with a dowsing rod. If you don't know what they feel like, is just say, is this feminine? Yes. And so you can find out the gender of a ley. So leys are either going to be masculine, feminine, or some are neutral. They're kind of not either. And that's what you do. And you may like to honor the femininity of it with, speaking to it, offering gifts and things like that. Leys are like us. They do like to be respected. So I would say get a coil. That would be my top tip.
So we have an androgynous ley that we need to be aware of. So it's respect the spectrum of all expression of life. It shows up as androgynous for some people, for some beings, some lay beings. And then for people to learn how to do this coiling, why don't you have a book on how to do these things?
Yeah, I have it. Where have I got that? Yes, in Divine and Ancient Sites. I mean, you can solder them as well, or just twist them around, but they are very, very easy to do. Now, if you're using electrical wire recycled from internal electrical source, you need to double it up. You'll need 4 bits. You see what I mean? You can't use 2. You get what's called industrial copper to put into the vise. It's really thick, and it will come out and it will look really, really nice, and it's really really cheap way to do. And the reason why dowsing societies don't advertise this of all across the world is because they're not getting any money for it. They're not getting the 40% sales, and it's the best. And it was actually George Lakowski that invented that, who knew Nikola Tesla. So you're in good hands with these good, learned gentlemen.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to talk about goddess warriors. You mean Linda? Yes, we're going to talk about Linda and other goddess warriors here in a minute. But first, Rosetta Jazz Hands says, I just have to say, from the first moment Maria came onto my screen, I have been mesmerized. Yeah. That's why we get pulled in. Your hair is so gorgeous, and I had the distinct impression of a fairy, and even looked for pointed ears, my perception of a fairy. Your voice sounds grounded in Mother Earth, and you speak Gaia, and your eyes smile eminence in your eyes, and your eyes. Sorry, your eyes and smile emanates love. That's worth saying again.
Oh.
Your eyes and smile emanate love.
Oh, that's so sweet. And that's very poetic. That's what we call very bardic. Because with Druidry, you have the first phase, which is a bard, and it's talking like that, talking with love and respect. And the more that we do that as well. The other thing I'd like to say about lays before we do move on with that question is it is been known for many, many decades now. They accentuate the way that you feel. So there's great. If you're a balanced person, then bingo, you're fine. But are we like that all the time? I know I'm not. And the trouble with lays is if I'm feeling a little bit down, I'm going to go down. Do you see what I mean? If I'm feeling a little bit high, I'm going to go really high. They accentuate your feelings, and that can get out of hand quite quickly. Do you see what I mean? So if you are on a lay, and you do live on a lay, like I say, get a coil or find out its entry and exit point and ground in some crystals, but make sure as well that you're working on yourself to balance all of the time, or go out and ground a lot. Because lays can take you up a little bit. Just what I mean, they can whoosh you up. That's why they go through sacred sites, so that you can have that raw elevation, but no ancestor lived on an energy line.
Okay. All right, beautiful. And I want to call people's attention to all of Maria's links down below, because again, as you see, she's just this channel of information. It just pours out. You ask them a question and then an encyclopedia falls into your lap. So she's got books that you can go, study and read upon and experiment with. You can go have direct tours and experiences with her. She's got so much that she's gifting people for experiences for this self-healing, the healing of Gaia, the healing of these sacred connections within and all around us. So please check out all of her goodness down below. And if you have questions, again, join our Facebook group. She is in our Facebook group. She does answer questions. So, all right, with that, your voice sounds grounded in Mother Earth, and you speak Gaia, and your eyes and smile emanates love. So we'll just move on to the next thing about goddesses. Isn't that ironic? And the goddess energy coming back, and the warrior energy of the goddess. And I just want you kind of maybe just do an education on this, because I think that like feminism is a thing that it became very polarizing, and there's 1,000 different definitions of feminism, you know what I mean? And I just want to cut to the chase, and let's talk goddess. Let's talk goddess and goddess warrior. Let's get to the heart of it.
Well, the Vikings called women, not necessarily goddesses, that could fight as equal to a man, a shield maiden. And a shield maiden, she could defend the land, she could defend the house, she could defend her children, and go to battle with anyone at any one time. And so they're the shield maidens, and that's reflected by warrior aspects of the triple goddess. With a Morrigan, for example, they're a kind of warrior band, if you will, very strong goddess energy. But then we have the kind of subtle energies as well that we can call upon, because the ancestors, we think of gods and goddesses, and rightly so, we've spoken about some, but our ancestors can be called upon as well. Our ancestors they're kind of like, not gods, but they have a lot of extraordinary power. So, for example, when England was being taken over by the Saxons, that's why King Arthur came into being. He was defending England against the Saxons, and he's a warrior king. But then if we move on into time, into the sort of 9th century in England, the Vikings were coming over, and there was an amazing woman. She was written out of history. I mean, if you're English, you all have heard of King Alfred the Great. King Alfred the Great unified England. Before then, there was a petty kingdom in Wessex. There was a petty kingdom called Mercia. It wasn't England. England wasn't one place. It was lots of small kingdoms. And King Alfred the Great unified it. But his daughter, written out of history, because history was written by men at those times, she was ferocious. She was called Ethelfled, a really ancient English name. And she would go into battle. She'd lead the men into battle, yielding 2 swords at any one time on her horse. And we can call upon our ancestors as well, like goddesses. Do you see what I mean? It can be anything that you link into. So I always say to people, you know, think about even in history, who do you get attracted to? You know, do you get attracted to Cleopatra? Do you get attracted to, you know, King Tut? You get attracted to Ethelfled. We can call in upon their energy to help us. The whole point of warrior energy is being the spiritual warrior. That's so important. You're the spiritual warrior, and the spiritual warrior's first lesson is know when to retreat. Yeah, so that you can fight the battle on another day. Because if you're all raw energy and you're going in like that as a spiritual warrior, you need to know when to retreat. So in runic law, there's a rune of protection that says a good warrior knows when to retreat. So to call upon this amazing spiritual warrior energy is great. To do that through gods like the Morrigan, Caridwen, or King Arthur, or Ethelfled, or other queens like Guinevere. She was very strong, an amazing queen. They're both said to lie next to each other in Glastonbury Abbey, where they got buried, is the legend. And we can call it, these beings stand outside of time. So we can call upon them. But again, even in your beautiful country, when I was at Charco Canyon, there's the myth that there's the Great North Road, isn't there? And I said earlier, I think that's a lay. I don't mean any disrespect to the Hopi or any First Nation person, but I truly believe the Great North Road is a lay. And that was the emergence point, wasn't it? At the end of the North Road, it's where the Hopi in their tradition came out of the ground. They emerged, the people, and it was so sacred to Mother Earth, so sacred, nobody could live there. And so they walked the Great Road and then came to Charco Canyon. And I think, you know, if we tune into that, that's a huge point in America. Where's birthing? Mother gives birth to everything. And I really felt quite close to that mythology, even though it's not from my land. So anyone from my mythology can join in. You see what I mean? We learn that the world is an amazing place. So I loved some of the legends of the Hopi and the Navajo there as well. Are beautiful.
Well, and you know, they don't segregate the way that we segregate. Like, you know, like a Celtic can have an experience with an archangel, and the archangel may be like, not even use the word archangel, because that archangel doesn't care. Like, it just doesn't matter. It's an energy, it's a consciousness, and we associate names out of traditions, and it's fine, it's good, it's wonderful, it's part of our awakening, part of our memory. But what they teach me all the time is to not get attached, because I can only see this much of the book. I can't read all of the book like that, and if I did, my head would hurt. They're showing me levels and layers, and so that way I understand. But let the narrative expand and fold, and don't think it ends. It's like any good science. Science is exploring something that it doesn't understand. It keeps unraveling. We're exploring ancient mysteries and understandings. Our empathic, telepathic, heart-soul connection relationships to all of this that is us, but isn't us, but we're in this oneness with. Let it be a relationship. Let it teach you. Drop your expectations over and over. They drive that home with us. I would love for you to close out by telling us about your project. It's not a documentary, it's a creative film. Now, would you guide us through the inspiration and what you're doing?
Yes, it's to accompany my next book, The Secret History of Stonehenge, which should be out in 2 or 3 months, where I'm really hoping that it will change the way that we see Stonehenge, but also how we can enhance agriculture by working with Mother Earth, enhance seed production, and a lot of other things besides. So I got to work with a great guy for Mind World Entertainment in America, actually, and we're putting together a film, because I've done lots of documentaries for Gaia TV and for, you know, BBC, and it's me talking do like that, and I thought it's great, don't get me wrong, I love documentaries, I watch them, but I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to get that kind of creative Celtic spirit and have imagery. So when I'm talking at Stonehenge being associated to the Celtic goddess of reincarnation, you see the Celtic goddess come around and embrace Stonehenge in scenes like this. So it's a creative film with me. I narrate the film, and it's a journey through the very start of Stonehenge that has never before been documented. You think it would have had, because it's in the history books, but nobody's seen the first phase of Stonehenge, which were these amazing brightly painted timber temples, for example. So we reconstruct it, and you can go in the temples and you'll go round the temples looking out at the Stonehenge landscape. You become, with this creative film, it's not just me saying in 2500 BC, and you're thinking, oh, who cares about 2500 BC? It's going to take you on a spiritual journey through how the ancestors walked the landscape and what happened right at the end. Why did the megalithic building program stop? Why? And I take you on that journey, and on that journey there's laughter, there's sadness, there's loss, there's birth, just like a lifetime. Stonehenge has had many different incarnations, and then finally it got abandoned. And then it ends with a really kind of uplifting note. So it is the imagery is very, very powerful, and the music is good. It's got a really good Celtic beat in parts, and it has been a journey. It's in the name of the ancestors, because as I mentioned earlier, or sorry, Katman mentioned earlier, you know, I discovered the long-headed. They had ears in a different placement. They look mythical, and we bring them back to life. And I present evidence from Oxford University. That's what they said. They've just never ever put the body's proportions together. I decided to put the body proportions together, and for what, they look like that, really? And so, yeah, so it's fun. We're going to have online parties with it. We're going to have online viewings, and obviously, if you're in England, you can come and meet me, and we're going to have a bit of you know, a showing, like a film night. But it's going to be online, and I'll be putting out and inviting out people. We're going to have a VIP, you know, meet up with the makers afterwards and that type of thing. But more than that, it's the untold. I call it the secret history because I think it's been repressed by every university in the United Kingdom. Every school has been taught that our ancestors looked disheveled. They didn't dress. They dressed in animal skins. No, they didn't. They had finely woven fabrics, better than this that I'm wearing. And beautiful silks, and the jewelry was exquisite that they wore. It was exquisite, and so I'm presenting a different face of the ancient past, and I'd like to think that I'm one of the voices of the ancestors of the British Isles.
You are one of the voices. You're one of the channels. You're one of the conduits. You're one of the goddesses. So how exciting.
We all are. It is exciting. So I'll keep that, you know, it'll be on my Facebook page. I'll be making announcements and things like that. Sign up to my newsletter on the averyexperience.co.uk. and that will be, and we want fun with it as well. Documentaries, they're great, but sometimes they leave you feeling a little bit deflated. And sometimes it could be elevated. Don't get me wrong, but I think sometimes with ancient history, it's made to sound so boring. It's wow, and you think, and this is taking us on a roller coaster of a journey that is going to turn everything inside out and upside down, and we're going to realize that the ancients were so wise.
I can't wait. So please do share that with our group, because I'll want to be able to participate. We'll want to be able to participate. So many people who just love what you've done and love the work that we did on our previous shows together. I wanted to ask Raven's daughter if she had any, speaking of goddesses, if she had any final questions or thoughts or feedback for Maria before we go to our final question.
Just a final thought. You were talking about calling in your ancestors, and that's one of the things I do a lot of when you're making a decision, when you're wanting to give thanks. Call your ancestors in and ask for that guidance, and always give that appreciation for those who stepped before you. And so I also just want to say thank you, Maria. You are such a blessing to us. You expand our world every time you come. You are a personification of everything that you teach. And
you're very kind.
It's true, nailing it.
Yes.
You're both wisdom keepers, and with all of the questions as well. This is what I love about the Third Eye Salon. Salon, we say, actually.
I love it. I'm gonna start saying it that way.
Yeah, it's hilarious. But no, in all seriousness, the questions, you're all a knowledgeable bunch of loving, caring people. The way that you open up this show is well, and that for the first time that touched my heart, because it's a little bit different to what I have been used to. So that was wonderful. And I would say to all of you, and Linda and Kat and all of your listeners, you're all doing good work. You're grounding people, you're interviewing people, you're putting messages out. We are all doing our little bits. Okay, so I just do what I do. You guys do what you do, and don't ever stop.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers to that.
And heads up, we did not get a question answered by Anne Marie, and I told her to repost it in our group. So maybe you could answer that there for her. So thank you. And perfect. I think that we are running a bit over. Is there anything else, Kat, before
yeah, well, I'll flip this into gallery view. Wait, you're so subtle, Linda.
I know, just say, be respectful of everyone's time.
No, yes, absolutely, including yours, milady. Our final question, Maria, is from your heart to ours. I mean, you just did share it, but from your heart to ours, what's your final thought to our audience?
Love the earth, love yourself, and just keep spreading those good vibes. And then, just lie on the earth, smell the earth, feel the wind in your hair, the stream of snow melt, the cry of a young-born child, life calls to life through the sigh of a breeze, the taste of clear water, the voice of a child. Treasure life and you will find gifts at every turn, said a famous bard.
That's so beautiful. That really mirrors what Elsa Dillon was saying on our show. She was saying, treasure the water you're drinking right now. Treasure the door handle you're touching, like connect and treasure. So here's here. Thank you, Maria. All right, Miss Linda. Take us out, lady.
Everyone who has participated and given great input in the chat, thank you. Thank you for your amazing questions. That's what I love about our show, is that you get the chance to ask the guest questions. So I love that. And if we didn't get to yours, please repost it in our group so that Maria can look at it, and we'll try to make sure she has eyes on it. Okay. Also, make sure you check out the links below. If you have not hit that like button, it's not too late. Please hit the like button. If you have not subscribed to us and been notified so that you know when we have new shows, please do so. And please share us with your friends so that we can grow our community. And with that, Kat, will you tell us who's going to be here next week?
I shall. It is Carla McBeath. Carla McBeath. Carla McBeath. Call her name 3 times and she will appear. She is one of our longest standing members of our community, and we have all these, like you're saying, Maria, all these people that are showing up. They're doing things, big and small ways, in their life, but they're doing it. They're being activated. They are activated, and Carla is one of those. She's birthing a book and a project, and she's got a lot of very clever ways of bringing people back into oneness and to sense of wholeness through color. And she's doing it she brings in the fairy energy. It's very mischievous, but she brings in the fairy energy. So she's doing this from this place of celestial connection while helping people and being very tricky and tricking people into helping themselves. It's very, very fey. So, so powerful. And all of our community is so powerful. So please do join us down below, and please do reach out to Maria and Linda and myself. Our links are down there too. So with that, we love you. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Be oh so good to yourself, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.